People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
What happens when Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher join forces to absolutely torch The View? You get a verbal smackdown so fierce, even Whoopi's wig looked ready to flee the scene. These two didn't just throw shade, they blocked out the sun with a total eclipse of savage comebacks and searing jabs. One slammed the show's double standards, then the other came in swinging with sarcasm so sharp it could slice through steel. If you thought daytime talk was a safe space, think again. This wasn't a debate. It was a disaster zone. Hot topics? More like code red. And no, there were no commercial breaks to soften the blow.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
The View, that never-ending circus of chaos, where everyone's talking, but no one's really listening. It's a caffeine-charged whirlwind of eye rolls, constant interruptions, and clapbacks that come faster than common sense can keep up. What's advertised as a talk show often feels more like a soap opera in disguise. Except here, logic took a one-way trip and never came back. Drop a Nobel Prize winner into that madhouse and give it 5 minutes. They'd be clutching their coffee mug in despair, asking how truth became the unwelcome stranger in the room. But just when you think it couldn't get any more wild, boom, the studio doors get kicked wide open by two unexpected wrecking balls, Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher. Proof that when the chaos gets loud enough, even the most unlikely voices can find common ground, if only to turn up the volume and burn it all down.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
One's a sharp-tongued right-wing satirist who sounds like he downs espresso spiked with sarcasm, and the other's a liberal atheist who swears political correctness is the real virus infecting society. And when both of them team up to roast The View, you know something wild is about to go down. It's like watching two sharks circle the same sinking boat, then decide to tear it apart just for the thrill. Greg Gutfeld, Fox News resident jester, practically has a side gig dragging The View like it owes him a fat check. At this point, it's less of a rant and more of a sacred ritual. He shows up, takes aim, and unleashes chaos like it's a national holiday.
Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
Well said.
The panel says something ridiculous, again, and Greg hears it, rolls his eyes so hard it's like he's triggering a shift in the Earth's atmosphere. Then he dives in, delivering a verbal body slam worthy of a WWE title match, aimed straight at daytime TV's most delicate ego parade. His main gripe? The show pretends to be a discussion, but it's really just 5 people shouting the same opinion, while each insists they're the one bringing balance and logic. Greg once joked that watching The View is like sitting through a group project where nobody did the homework, but everyone still claims to be the expert. He's relentless, roasting Joy Behar for casually rewriting history mid-sentence, calling out Sunny Hostin for her never-ending game of "I'm right because I said so," and questioning Whoopi's ever-shifting identity as what he calls the world's most confused philosopher.
Joy Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast.
According to Greg, The View isn't a talk show. It's a chaotic therapy session where the therapist keeps storming out mid-session, and the guests, they're just there to be used for target practice. Behind all the cutting sarcasm and savage one-liners, Gutfeld's core message is crystal clear. The show's turned into a self-congratulatory echo chamber where opposing views aren't discussed. They're demolished. You don't get invited to share your perspective. You get summoned to confess your wrong think. And if by some miracle you survive the passive-aggressive eye rolls, whispered jabs, and deep theatrical sighs, you might be granted the luxury of half a sentence before getting steamrolled again. And when it comes to their so-called inclusive vibe, Greg tears it apart. He says it's got all the warmth of an Arctic blizzard. A conservative walks onto that set and suddenly it's not, let's talk, it's let's trap and destroy. He doesn't hold back. He calls it what it is, performance activism, a Broadway production with worse lighting and eyebrows that do more acting than the hosts. Oh, and don't think he lets the crew off easy either. According to Greg, the real star of The View isn't Joy or Whoopi, it's the poor teleprompter guy silently begging for a commercial break before yet another misinformation rant goes viral. But the true cherry on top, Gutfeld's wild theory that The View exists in its own alternate universe, a place where facts get filtered through emotional mood rings and logic is measured in sheer volume. To him, watching The View feels like reading a chaotic Twitter thread, except somehow someone gave it a camera crew, and honestly, he might be onto something.
Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off when she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic racism as a white lady.
Well, she had that one Halloween where she went as Diana Ross and she felt she was treated differently.
I also...
Just when you think the roast couldn't get any hotter, you see, boom, in walks Bill Maher, the man who built a whole mansion on Mount Contrarian and hosts parties where the drinks are strong and the truth bombs come stronger. If Greg Gutfeld is the sniper picking off hypocrisy from afar, Maher's the demolition man, smiling as he strolls into the building, detonator in hand, ready to blow the whole thing sky high. Maher's always been the kind of liberal who terrifies other liberals. He's pro-weed, pro-free speech, and absolutely fearless when it comes to calling out nonsense, no matter which side is dishing it out. So when even Bill Maher starts mocking The View, that's when you know they've officially crossed the line into cringe territory. His biggest complaint, the show's allergic reaction to nuance. Maher didn't hold back. He said, The View treats any form of disagreement like it's a personal attack, not a chance for real conversation. Say something even slightly outside the groupthink bubble, and bam, you're suddenly problematic, misogynistic, or his personal favorite, unenlightened. According to Maher, it's not a discussion, it's a diagnosis. Speak your mind, and instead of hearing you out, they'll hand you a prescription for a public apology and a fast-track ticket to Twitter cancellation. He slammed their fake outrage, their obsession with being morally superior, and their uncanny talent for turning even the tiniest issue into an emotional five-alarm fire.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing.
Watching The View, Maher says, feels like sitting through a fire drill, except everyone's panicking and blaming you for the smoke. And Maher doesn't just scratch the surface, he dives in hard. He ridicules the hosts for quoting articles they clearly didn't finish reading, speaking in hashtags instead of full thoughts, and treating emotional outbursts like they're actual evidence. If Gutfeld calls out the show for faking a diversity of opinion, Maher takes it even further. He accuses them of faking intellectual curiosity altogether. His takedowns come with a dry smirk and a tired grimace, like he's mourning the fact that the bar has sunk this low. When a show becomes so scripted you can predict their reactions before they open their mouths. Maher stops seeing entertainment and starts seeing tribal cosplay, just with coffee mugs and preloaded outrage. And here's the wildest twist. Gutfeld and Maher agree. These two men who'd probably argue about what color the sky is, even if you handed them a box of paint samples, somehow landed on the same page. And that page reads, "The View has turned into unintentional comedy, except the jokes don't land and the punchlines think they're profits." Both see the show not as a panel of thinkers, but as a piece of political performance art, where every single topic is treated like the end of the world and the solution, a group hug with elbows sharpened and ready to jab.
Talk about Whoopi Goldberg, because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, "Oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma." First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. It just happened to coincide. But
they both agree. The View punishes independent thinking like it's a crime scene investigation. And yes, they also agree the audience has been trained to cheer on cue like it's a daytime wrestling match instead of a conversation. But maybe the funniest point of agreement? According to them, the most dangerous thing you can bring to The View isn't a controversial idea. It's showing up without makeup. Gutfeld calls the whole thing ideological theater. Maher, he dubs it a culty brunch with commercial breaks. Brutal and spot on, and you better believe the hosts of The View didn't take it well. When those roast clips started exploding online, you could almost see the steam rising off their coffee mugs. The few times they attempted a clapback, it landed like glitter on a grease fire, shiny, chaotic, and absolutely useless. Defensive, vague, and somehow managing to completely dodge the point. But the internet? Oh, the internet didn't miss a beat. People from both sides of the political spectrum saw something rare. Actual agreement. And not just agreement, laughter. Because deep down, the critiques stung precisely because they were true. In all its preachy, self-praising energy, The View had morphed into the one thing it claims to oppose: predictable, preachy, and painfully disconnected. And when the fallout came, it was as awkward and inevitable as you'd expect.
I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill Maher, who has been the standard bearer for liberalism and in many ways leftism until the woke went bananas in this last decade, but for decades, that's what this guy has represented in America. I want you to note the tone they all talk with him. I want you to look at Sonny Hostin's body language and the way they look at him and everything else. Just because he is a lefty who hasn't gone completely bananas, here they are talking.
Then, suddenly, silence. The show clammed up like nothing had happened. No thoughtful responses, no real engagement. Just tight, uncomfortable smiles and a quick pivot to the next segment as if they hadn't just been flambéed in a 5-course roast seasoned with spicy truth. It was like someone had dropped a giant mirror on the table, and not a single host dared to look into it. And here's the delicious irony. The very show that prides itself on having tough conversations completely folded when two outsiders actually brought one to the table. Gutfeld and Maher didn't toss grenades. They tossed facts, laced with sarcasm and razor-sharp satire. And what did The View do? They ducked, covered, and prayed the ratings wouldn't notice. But the audience did notice. Because when a Fox News firestarter and a liberal comic join forces to roast your credibility, that's not a takedown, it's an intervention. A public, wildly entertaining, and brutally honest intervention. And here's the bigger issue. It wasn't just about mocking a talk show, it was about exposing what happens when a platform stops listening and starts preaching. When it ditches genuine curiosity in favor of viral moments and moral lecturing. When it starts treating disagreement not as a pillar of democracy, but as a threat to be silenced. Gutfeld and Maher may never toast wine over dinner. They may spend the rest of their careers throwing shade at each other's politics. But for one unforgettable moment, they agreed on something crystal clear. The View has lost the plot and the script. And that worn-out script, it belongs in the recycling bin, right next to the cue cards they barely need, since every host seems to think the exact same thing anyway.
Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy. Oh.
If The View ever wants to be taken seriously again, maybe it's time to invite some real dissent. Not just for show, but with actual substance. Because when your harshest critics are funnier, sharper, and more consistent than your own hosts, maybe, just maybe, it's time to dial down the noise and turn up the thinking. But don't hold your breath, because the only thing louder than The View's applause for itself is the deafening silence when anyone dares to truly challenge it. And if you think this was the last time Gutfeld and Maher will light up that set from opposite sides of the ring, think again. These two may not be friends, but they found a shared target, and let's just say, The View won't be sending them Christmas cards anytime soon. When the clowns start calling out the circus, you know the whole show is in serious trouble. Here's the poetic and tragic twist. When the clowns sound sadder than the circus itself, it's a clear sign the tent is about to come crashing down. We're not talking about random YouTubers or Twitter trolls here. We're talking about Greg Gutfeld, a man who built a career on sarcasm at Fox News, and Bill Maher, the king of eye-rolling liberals who once launched verbal Molotov cocktails at Republicans for breakfast. Yet somehow, these two professional contrarians took one look at The View and said, yeah, that's too much. Let that sink in.
Nah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
You've got a conservative comedian convinced half the country's gone woke bananas, teamed up with a progressive firebrand who was hosting politically incorrect shows long before cancel culture even knew its own name. And both of them agree. The real problem isn't just The View, it's that chaotic daytime circus with coffee mugs and endless noise. This isn't just criticism anymore, it's an intervention. The moment you realize The View has wandered so deep into its own echo chamber that even its closest ideological neighbors are throwing rocks through the glass walls. These two weren't always enemies of the show. Maher once served as its sarcastic North Star, and Gutfeld played the classic foil. But even foils have their breaking point. When both come at you like disappointed parents watching their kid fail a group project they assigned, it's no longer satire, it's a flashing warning light. You can feel it. The View has pushed out anyone with a shred of irony or, heaven forbid, a backbone. You either nod along with the scripted outrage or get side-eyed into oblivion. Here's the delicious irony. The very people calling The View out, the ones who live in the political minefields every day, sound more reasonable, more balanced, and dare we say it, downright normal compared to the show itself.
Pete Goldberg, who, by the way, I hope is still a friend, we can disagree with each other, should not be canceled or put off her show, as much as I totally disagree with her crazy statement. Free speech. She should be there. She shouldn't get a timeout.
Not every single thing has to be for everybody.
Right.
We can have platforms that have stuff on them that not everyone on that platform or who consumes stuff on that platform enjoys. And The View is a particularly weird place to do a cancellation.
It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
In a world where common sense is almost extinct, it took a Fox host and a libertarian comic to say what everyone else has been screaming into the void. The View has become a loud, chaotic mess, flailing for attention and about as insightful as a Reddit thread written in all caps. And here's the knockout blow. If The View truly wants balance, forget the usual parade of yes women and token guests. Instead, invite Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher to co-host. Seriously, put them side by side with the regular panel and live stream the whole thing like a therapy session with zero chance of resolution. Let viewers watch the tension build, the eyebrows twitch, and the moral superiority crack like an iPhone screen after a single drop. Or better yet, just save everyone the trouble and rebrand the whole show. Call it the sigh, because that's exactly what the audience does now. Sigh, cringe, and wonder when someone, anyone, will finally speak some sense. Turns out that someone had to be the clowns, and somehow they made more sense than the entire circus.